Welcome, friends, to another DPZ show on the Sports Dad Collectible channel, and second installment of the Grail series featuring Spinotron and Adam Gray. We're going to be talking about Kobe Bryant today. I have two of the best in-house, hobby experienced Kobe Bryant collectors. Between these two guys, if you have a question about Kobe Bryant, you will find your answer every single time. I can attest to it because I've asked these two so many questions. They've been so incredibly helpful, and very privileged to have both of you on. Thanks, gentlemen, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, again, this is a discussion about the bigger cards, what the top cards, the grails of Kobe Bryant. Now, Grail can be defined very differently based on who you're talking to. We get that. But what we want to focus on are the cards that are the most sought after, the most in demand. They could be rare and obscure. There's nothing wrong with that. But really the focus is on the cards that the collecting base want. Someone who wants to collect and PC Kobe Bryant, and if they're going to aim to the sky, what are the cards they're aiming at? What are they looking for? So without any further ado, I think I've had you both on my shows in the past, so I think everybody knows who you are. We don't have to go through the origin story and all that stuff. Let's just kick this off. I'm gonna start with Adam. I'm gonna have you kick everything off, and then I'll have Spinotron respond or add his, and you respond. I mean, you can give me your top 10 if there's 10 grails. I mean, Adam, talk to me about what a grail is to you and what a grail is to the Kobe Bryant community, in your opinion.
Man, well, first off, let me just say it's really fun for me to be on here with Spino, somebody who I consider a friend, and somebody who's written for Basketball Card Fanatic magazine, and I've had on various things through the years. And like you, Dennis, I've asked Spino a lot of questions through the years. But when I think about Kobe Bryant grails, from my perspective, as I was sort of thinking about this before the show, I think Kobe, maybe more than any other player, has like specific eras that he has like specific collectors within. And so I wrote this down. I think Kobe has 6 pretty distinct eras of cards. And I don't know if there's anybody else who has that many, who is like semi-modern, but these are the ones that I wrote down. So I think you've got rookies, you've got the late 90s, you have pre-exquisite, and then what we would either call pre-Panini or exquisite era, which is a little bit funky because that also includes things like Topps Chrome and some other cool things, but that's typically what it's called. Then you have his Panini active days and you have his post-playing days. And so I'm a collector at least somewhat in all 6 of those eras, but I'm not a grail collector from all 6 of those eras. Frankly, because I probably can't be, right? Frankly, because people like Spino have 3 of the 8 EX credential nows, right? Like they're cards that from different eras are grails that aren't even conceivable, that were never going to be possible. Although I've messaged Spino and said, is there any chance that you would move one of your duplicates? He just says no, and we move on from the conversation. It's great. It's cordial. We love each other, but we know that there's no chance that that's going to happen. So what that's left me to do is to say, okay, what are the grails that are not sort of like impossible to find? And they're real grails. They're just not, accompanied by $1 million or, high 6-figure type valuations. And that's what's great about Kobe is that you can sort of collect those grails from each of those eras. Did I say anything that you would disagree with there, Spino, or are we pretty aligned on that?
Yeah, I agree with your division. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Cool. Well, do you think that one of those eras is better than any of the others?
Yeah, for me it's like, yeah, I sort of I was considering like 90s, late 90s in my first one, and then like the 2000s era, basically the exquisite, ultimate, and those kind of things. And then it's Panini era, right? Like you have a Prism, you have a Natural Treasure, Immaculate, Flawless, those kind of things, and some innovations like a Silhouette and other stuff. Yeah. So it's basically you are more fine-tuned, like you divide up a little bit more within those each of those 3 period basically.
There's some self-serving going on there on my part because there's like when people talk about like the Exquisite era, you're the same way. You and I have competed over some cards in the pre-Exquisite era, and that's super fun. But I think it's fun to differentiate between those things. If I was to sort of segue a little bit, if I was to look at you and say, okay, what do I think Spino's Grail of Grails are? I think it's probably what most people think of as like the Kobe Grails. So we're talking about the green, we're talking about the credentials now, and those are like the 2 biggest ones from that second year that he's in the league. But for me, and so this is where I'm a little bit different. I'm lucky enough to have some of the late 90s big cards of Jordan, and I like the sets where Jordan is the best player to have Jordan, but the sets where Kobe isn't, where Kobe's not like the guy who's most collected, I typically go towards other sets. I want Kobe to be the guy who I like, the key guy to the set, but I know I'm different in that. I know I am. And I think most people would trade their whole collections and then their houses and everything else for your Kobe Green. So don't get me wrong, those are like some of the greatest cards ever made. That's not the era that I sort of collect Kobe in, but I think if any of us were going to be really real, we would say the biggest cards that have ever sold of Kobe Bryant, it's the green. The green sold for $2 million, right? And Spino has one of those. So that's, Dennis, that's probably the Kobe Grail, is the green PMG.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It sort of leads the way with most cards. Just doing a little share here. With most cards, for anybody who collects in that era of 90s card, I mean, and I think a lot of us do.
It's funny though, because like I collect guys from the 90s, but like you're collecting David Robinson there, right?
Yeah.
Is David Robinson the green? Does it immediately become your Grail? Like I collect Kobe. The Kobe Green isn't my Grail. It's for 2 reasons. 1, because I'll never afford it, but 2, because I'm not as focused on the 90s. I actually I'm not there. It's not my favorite era to collect in for Kobe. It's not.
I don't know. I mean, I've talked to both of you quite a bit. I guess the fact that getting you both in the same room is actually quite funny, because you both know exactly all the things, all the questions I ask, and when it comes to Kobe, when it comes to just in cards in general and the importance of cards, the provenance, all of that, the why the cards matter. I think a Grail for me is a card that you have to reach. It's a card that's in demand, that most people would put at number 1, but it's not unattainable either. I mean, for David Robinson though, it's the red PMG, and I got one, right? So that was the first one I got, and I went and got a handful of others. I'm going to sell a bunch of those just to sit around 3 or 4 or 5 bigger cards and just kind of hang out there, like that turquoise one I got today. I drove down to Tacoma to snag it. It was a really cool card, and it was kind of neat going into a card shop and buying a card. And that's a in hand, those things are pretty amazing. I didn't even realize they had like a refract to them, and those types of cards are important. I think that's not a Grail card, the one I got today, but yeah, the red is. The green, I don't know anybody who even has one. But it would probably be a bit more attainable than a Kobe or a Michael Jordan, right? So those 2 are going to cost more than I'll ever afford. So it's not a Grail to me. I think that I have 3 cards. I don't know if these Kobe's are Grails. You both know the cards I hold, the 3 I hold. I mean, the Credentials is an iconic card. Is it a Grail? I don't know. Maybe that super patch that Spinos allowed me to have. Is that a Grail? No. But is it a really, really cool, important card and rare? Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. I don't know where else I'd get one. I've never seen one before. And a guy like Spin had it for a long, long time. So in a way, that's kind of a Grail, because he had to decide to sell it to me in order for me to even have it. Otherwise, there's no way I'm getting that card ever. And so I think it kind of goes to, or the Superfractor, Adam. I mean, is that a Grail? Is that super a Grail? No, but
What I would say is it's good for us to sort of clarify this at the beginning. And I know you've already done one of these episodes. We obviously haven't had a chance to hear it yet. But when people use different vernacular, they mean different things. And so the word grail to some people means something that's like universally understood as the greatest, right?
Great.
And so I can say that the Kobe green that we have up in the screen right now, and I'm going to shut up quick because I'd much rather listen to Spino, and I think everybody would rather listen to Spino than listen to me. So I'm gonna try to not talk for too long. But the Kobe green that's the card. That's like the biggest Kobe card in existence. It's even worth more probably than like the best 1-of-1 type cards. I personally like the credentials now more, but the market and the hobby at large has indicated that is the Kobe card. But for me, Dennis, I feel much more comfortable talking about like what I think are the best things. And that's why I sort of break it down into these different categories and say which cards from each of these eras for Kobe are grails. Because I think Kobe's got rookie grails. I think he's got late 90s grails. I think he has pre-exquisite grails, exquisite grails, Topps Chrome grails, and he's got Panini grails. So
let's do that. How about you do that and spin? Okay. I guess you can choose how you want to respond to that because you have some of these cards. But yeah, I think folks listening to this program, I think a lot of folks already kind of know what the cards that are universally known. Cool. Within those different like segments of time and collecting spaces, that's cool. I want to know what those are.
Cool. So I'll take. And thank you for thanks for giving us a sec to sort of like get into this because I feel like I'm into it now. So within these six categories, I'm literally gonna take 2.5 to 3 minutes, and I'm just gonna hit what I think about all six, condense it down as quickly as I can. So for the rookies, I think there's 4 clear-cut best cards. I think it's the Chrome Refractor. I think it's the Credentials. I think it's the Row Zero Legacy. And I think it's kind of a tie between the gold and the regular finest refractor. I think those are the best Kobe cards from that rookie year. There's some other cards that kind of come up like the Ultra Platinum and the Red, the Rubies, and some other ones of Platinum. But to me, those top ones are what they are. And so for me, I have a couple of them. I didn't care to get them in super high grade because that just does not matter to me in any sort of way. I wanted ones that look good. And so I have a Credentials that looks great, and I have a Chrome Refractor that looks amazing. They're ones the Credentials is graded an authentic, and the Refractor is graded a 7, and I think they're perfect cards. From the next era, the late 90s, you have the green that we're talking about, the Credentials now. You have the Rubies, you have the all of the serial number cards, and then the thing that you have that's a little bit different is that Kobe has sets that he's in that Jordan's not in. Right. One of them that comes to my mind is the Raise the Roof set. The Raise the Roof set is aesthetically one of the nicest sets ever made. It's absolutely fantastic. It's numbered out of 100. There are a few of these other sets, some of the Warp Techs from the prior years, or from I think, or the Warp Techs from Dominion. Are those 98 or 99 spin? Do you know?
I think 99. I think
99. So those are out of 25, and those are incredible. Those are grails. And then you get into the pre-exquisite era. The pre-exquisite era is, like you're out of the 90s, out of the key 90s stuff, but you've got like Upper Deck getting ready to create exquisite. So you have Ultimate Collection and SP Authentic, and you have Upper Deck in some of the key cards there. So from 2000 Ultimate, they made autograph patches. They numbered them out of 8, or they numbered them out of the player's jersey number. There's only 3 guys in the set. One of them is Kobe. It's out of 8. It's been my number 1 card on my list forever. Spino knows this. Spino has the 8 of 8 of that card. It's just a dream card. But what I have from that era that's pretty cool too is the first Logo Man auto, which was out of basic Upper Deck out of 2002. That is, that if I have a card that's considered a grail of Kobe, that's it, right? He has like the first Logo Man autos ever. They made 9 of them. Kobe's 3 of the cards, Jay Williams 3 of the cards, and Jordan in a Wizards uniform is 3 of the cards. And so that's those are like the grails from the pre-exquisite era. Then the exquisite era, you have the number pieces and the 1-of-1s. Again, Spino's your guy to talk to with those. The autograph patches out of 1, and then the number pieces. And then also in that exquisite era, you have gold refractors and superfractors. I got this close to one of the Kobe superfractors out of Chrome. Didn't end up happening. I was able to buy it at like 10% for a card that didn't matter as much, which was another superfractor that I love, but it's not in that sort of vein, is like the chrome superfractor. And then after that era, so that goes from 2003 to 2009. After that era, you get into the Panini era. And the Panini era is all about the super high-end brands. But for the real grails, I think you're looking at Prism. And I think you're looking at 2012, the gold and the silver auto. Those are my other Kobe grails, right? I have the 1 of 10 gold. Spin has the 8 of 10 gold. And then we both have the silver autographs too from that year, which are, I think, from the Panini era, that's as good as it gets. The other card that I think of, Spino, as a grail from that early Panini era is the Black Mamba signature, the notable nicknames. I love that card, and I've wanted one forever. I think that's one of his best autograph cards, and I really wish that I had one of those. Do you have that card?
Yeah, I think I have the both. Yeah, so what you're mentioning is about the inscribed autograph, right? Inscribed autograph in the Panini era, there are only 4 within his playing days as you divide it. So there's a 2009-10 National Treasure notable nickname out of 99 has a Black Mamba inscription, and then there's a replacement based version which is out of 35 with the inscription MVP, and then there's this USA superscribe from Gold Standard, and the last year of his National Treasure out of 49, where he signs the Black Mamba and a Vino. So those are like the inscription sets. Yeah.
Is that immaculate?
No, it's not. Still National Treasure. Yeah.
There's something in him. I thought there's something in Immaculate where he signed the last few.
Yeah. There are some occasional serial number where I think in the first year, in the 97 out of 99, he signed something like Black Mamba or something, because that's his.
I think it's the last 5. The last 5.
96 or something. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the and I'll just, again, last thing. Then there's the post-career Kobe stuff, which there's a lot of cool stuff. I think the autograph, there's some really killer autographs. There's the unparalleled autograph where he's soaring through the air that's out of 50. There's the Noir, the signature spotlight from 2016 that I think a lot of people view as like one of the best looking cards ever made. And then there's a couple of other ones, but though that I went a little bit longer than I meant to, but I think within each of those eras, there really are like the most key big time grail type cards. And for me, my sort of collecting journey has like led me to sort of figure out, okay, which of those do I want to sort of focus on? And I've mainly focused on the Panini era and then the pre-Exquisite era. Those are sort of my favorite eras of the 6.
I mean, this card is gorgeous. I didn't even know this existed. This is how much of a novice I am. This is an amazing card. I mean, you don't need a PSA 10. I mean, obviously it's pretty expensive, but there's only 100 of them. I mean, look at this card. I can't imagine what this looks like in hand.
Dennis, it's just as nice on the back too. It's one of those rare 2-sided refractor type cards that just. Again, there was one on MC Sports Cards about a month ago, and I was poor because I just bought the biggest card of my life. Yeah. But I wanted it so bad. I don't care about the grade. I'd love to buy a 7 of this card.
That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of card where grades, again, like you said earlier, maybe it's not such a huge deal. Just owning one is important. How much are these, just to give folks listening an opportunity to understand, like what's the value? I mean, this is a $49,000 bid, 7 days left here in all. Again, we're not sponsored by any of this. It's just finding this stuff. What's well, I guess you can go here and see what they think it's worth, but there's only 1 8. There isn't many of these. I mean, you could get an 8, and this is all that they're showing, but they're not really for sale very often. I mean, how often these come out?
A few times a year. I didn't know about that, Kobe. Are we sure that's at alt right now? Because I should know that. I don't think that's at alt right now on bid. There's one at PWCC that's a 7. I don't see one at alt right now though, man. I wonder what's going on there.
It could be like the universal search they have.
Yeah, I think that's right.
From the web.
I just pulled this thing up, and
I think that's right.
That's exactly. I wouldn't take it seriously. This is probably not right now.
But there is one.
Maybe let me talk a little bit about 90s and Exquisite to complement what Adams was talking about, so that it's more comprehensive. I think as you guys said, like Kobe is lucky in the sense that he's in almost every iconic set, right? And also, Grail card to me is like a card where people would trade everything for it, right? They would hold on to it until the last one to sell.
Right.
So it's very important to the collector themselves. And also, I think you can also tell from the market behavior. There are certain cards which are like more liquid, more commodity-like, shows up like periodically, like a few times a year. And there are also cards which just simply never show. So the PMG Green and the Essential Credential now are those type of cards, right? So for the 90s, I think Kobe is also a good example where the rookie cards is not everything. His best card starts in 97, 98. And because that's the first year when all the brands start to systematically introduce serialized cards, and there are always a numbered version parallel to the base card. And I think I found a good division, right? If you divide up the brands of Skybox brand, we look on the back, it says Skybox, right? Some on the back, it says a Fleer. Both of the company are the same company at that time. But if you divide it up like that, because all the Ultra Masterpiece and Flyer Masterpieces all belong to Fleer. And if you just say Skybox, which is like more, they are more famous for their design and innovation, right? If you stay within the Skybox era, you can say PMG Green and the Essential Credential now for the top players. Those are the two products in the first year of systematic serialization. In the Skybox brand, those are like the rarest parallels, right? So those are very hard attributes. There's no debate, it's irrefutable. So those, let's not talk about design. I think those attributes already set them apart from others, right? And then you look at the PMG, it's kind of a gem-like, very nice surface texture, and Essential Credential now or future, they are like very contemporary art style, right? Layered, and also the numbering, which differentiate between players and across the years. So those two, I think the PMG Green has this status is because people tend to chase them openly, right? People beating weight with each other. And for the Essential Credential, basically, I was the main chaser, right? I kind of absorbed a lot of set collectors along the way, so I'm more disgraced. So that's why it's less kind of publicized. But I think eventually those two are 1A and 1B. They should be on the same category. And also, I think another important thing is there's like a two-body problem. You have a rare version and you have a less rare version, right? Rare version is like top, which can define the ceiling, which can drag the less rare version up. And the less rare version is kind of a more affordable and a more accessible alternative, which also push the price up through an imaginary multiplier. So this kind of setup is very interesting for the growth of its value, unlike just one copy of like rubies or other stuff. Yeah, so I think out of those, there's also rubies, there's also PMG kind of series, and other like numbered things. So that's the late 90s. So Adam focused on a little bit of a pre-Exquisite, which you touched upon pretty well. So I'm just gonna focus on Exquisite, right? Exquisite has a 7-year run, and because of the collector who is called a Jim, right, dominating the first 3 years, which basically has everything. He has the master set before he sold them all. So because everything is not available, and even the most scrap 1-for-1 is super valued, and it's kind of a holy grail. So I think from at least among the exquisite collector, like of long experience, they always view the first 2 or 3 years as the best, most desirable exquisite years, and also they tend to reflect, right? Usually the first couple of years are the most innovative, most like fresh. I think the two nicest set in that brand is emblems of endorsement. I think is and also number pieces. I think those are the top cards. So if you give me 4 cards for the Kobe, I would say green and credential now, and then first year number pieces out of 8 and emblems out of 15. Those are like top 4, and span through the 2 different era. And also one need to understand the historically how the hobby evolves, right? Different company kind of compete and replace each other. In the late 90s, Fleer is innovative in terms of design, right? And also some concept. But Upper Deck already introduced, like, bring the fan closer to the game, like memorabilia, autograph, and those get magnified in the Exquisite, where it's the highest end product, like $500 per box and so on, right? So those are kind of, so then the Fleer cannot compete with those kind of auto patches. So they kind of go out of, like, go into the bankruptcy mode. So after, in the Exquisite, they also have like a dual logo man and stuff, but I'm not too keen on like a dual card. I'm just like the solo cards. And besides Adam's Logomania, there are 3 versions, right? But then there are also 3 ultimate logo auto for Kobe. I think those are also the top cards, basically. Only 3 years.
For sure.
And then I think it's worth mentioning, like, in the later part of Exquisite, 2008, I think there's emblems, which is out of 10.
Yes.
With the patch window, looks like a sky. That card is extremely popular in the Asian community.
Signed in gold,
so
right?
That's worth mentioning. Yeah.
Signed in gold.
Yeah, also, yeah, also one of the, I think it's the only one that Kobe signs in gold, right? Probably.
That's right.
Yeah, and the patch, like, sits inside the sky-shaped patch window. That's super sick. Yeah.
Can I ask you a couple quick Exquisite related questions, Spino?
Yeah, sure.
So you said 03 emblems, which is a great card,
right,
and 03 number pieces are the best. And so 2 questions. If you didn't have either, so you've got to sort of like imagine you don't have anything, and you have a chance at getting an 04 number pieces or an 03 emblems, which of those 2 cards would you rather have?
Okay. Yeah, I think the 03 emblems actually historically sells higher than the number pieces, like before the recent times, right? And there are several set collectors who has everything, just not the Kobe. The Kobe hasn't showed up for, like, let me think, maybe 15 years or so.
Really?
And James sold his collection. There are 3 copies from that collection. So suddenly the market sees 3 copies. I think one collector got 2 copies and did something with it. I think that card is a very, very, like, iconic because it's not available, very beautiful.
You're saying, just to be clear, you would take the 03 emblems over the 04 number pieces?
Yeah, because it's part of my top 4. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the best set, actually. Best set in the Exquisite.
You like the emblems more than the number pieces?
I mean, let's disregard a year, just talk about a single release. I think that's the best set, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that you feel that way. I think that makes sense because if you average the players out, like if the players' numbers, 15 and 10 are generally less than the average player. But those first 2 Kobe's to me are like 2 of the nicest. Those first 2 number pieces Kobe's are like,
out of
I think those are 2 of the nicest. Like I personally would take the 04 number pieces over the 03 emblems by far. I like the 08 emblems more than I like the 03 emblems. But you're right about timing and about like that's a great and it's a great card that Dennis has pulled up here. I mean, it's an amazing card, but to me, it doesn't. It's really about rarity, and that 08 year is just so darn. It's so different. It's like it's one of the most unique, exquisite cards ever made. I've never owned any of those sort of things, but anyway, I've interrupted you. I love where you're going with this. One more quick question. Would you, because you have the 2000 Ultimate that I've talked about wanting so much. If you had a chance to trade that for an 03 emblems, you would do it?
You mean pretending I'm doing this trade, right, without having the card? Yeah, I think.
Wow.
I think so. Wow. I think actually the emblems actually privately sold for 250,000 times 3. Like each copy sold that much. Wow. I think that's quite high. Sorry, let me just turn off this machine. It's beeping a lot.
Well, Dennis, while Spino's doing that, let me just say the thing that shocks me about that is that card that you're looking at right there is almost twice as plentiful as the card that Spino has the 8 of 8 of. And again, for me, aesthetically, that 2000 Ultimate Collection is, I think that the image of Kobe on that, it's missing the holofoil. I wish it had holofoil, but I always say the Ultimate Collection had to walk before, Exquisite could run. And I just, it's older. It's the first autograph patch. I would take that all day over this card. I would.
Yeah, I think this card, I think the first year Exquisite is just so iconic, like this kind of design, right? Like this whiteness on top of it. There's some like this kind of ink spread it over, and there are these patch windows. I think it's very clever if you just go by the names, right? They have emblems, which means it's kind of the patch is coming from the team like logo card, like Lakers or something, and the number pieces tend to be patched from the numbers, and the noble nameplate is from the name, and so on. Limit logo is like big kind of logo cuts. So the name from the name is already indicates the origin of the location of the patch. And I think it's just because this card was one of the earliest card I'm chasing when I entered this collecting. So it's more significant to me in some sense. Yeah.
I love it, man. If it were me and I was comparing this with the number pieces, I'd give it to the number pieces. I would, and by far, I that's a dream card. And then if it's the dream or the number pieces versus the 2000 Ultimate, I think that's pretty close personally, just because I really value how important a card was in the sort of not only in the history of how things sort of came together, but like its place in the progression of cards. And again, 2000 Ultimate Collection is the first time we ever see a stamped serial numbered patch auto, and the image of Kobe is nicer on that. It's the way that his image on the card.
Close up.
Again, I'm talking up, just Dennis, to be clear on this, I'm currently talking up a card that I don't have. I'm talking up a card that Spino has. And he's talking up another card, and so it's interesting to sort of think about the different sort of perspectives. But I do think we need to look at like which cards sort of informed the future of cards, and that 2000 Ultimate Kobe that you've got, to me, that's I doesn't get much better than that to me.
Well, I think what's interesting too about all these cards we're looking at, you can almost ignore all this up here. It just almost doesn't matter. It's the card. Everybody just wants to have it, as plentiful it is or not. Or you look at, this card. I mean, I tend to like these ones more. I'm more the 90s guy. I'm probably the late 90s guy, 97, 88, 99. My PC of like Griffey or Kobe or D-Rob, it's all that year, for that frame of time right there. It's some of the best cards, right? But when you look at some of these, I have this Kobe, but in an 8, you look at these cards, and I think we're talking about, we started talking about grails, but we sort of morphed into this conversation about the important cards for Kobe, right? And I think can those be intertwined? Tell me, yes or no? I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, I think in the ideal world, in the idealistic world, in the perfect world, the most important cards should be the Grail cards, right? Those should be coinciding. But collectors collect in their own way, and there are various like reasons. Sometimes market influenced, sometimes kind of a big collector determine the perception or something, or a collector kind of shut out other collectors, so that card kind of doesn't exist. So it's sometimes they deviate, but I think to me, like historical first are the very important attributes you have to pay attention to. Yeah, I think the first is auto patch, and also no variation, and then machine stamped, as Adam mentioned in Automate 2000. That's definitely a historical card.
Let me, Dennis, let's do one other thing real quick before we go on. And I know we're short on time, but I've got to ask Spino this. I think this is super interesting.
Do it.
So, Spino, your house is burning down. You only get to grab 3 Kobe cards.
Someone's stealing one.
Wait, am I stealing a question?
No, you're just taking my that was like my go-to in the very beginning of the collector series. Carry on, brother. Keep going. I like this.
Sorry.
I like where it's going.
It's
I like
a
where it's
great
going.
question, though.
It is. It's awesome.
And this is a great question because I don't know what his answer is going to be here. I really don't. You only get to keep 3. You have to get rid of the rest, whatever the reason is. You have to send some to your buddy Adam, who's always trying to get big cards from you. You don't ever sell cool cards too. So you only get to keep 3. Which 3 are you keeping?
Right. Yeah. So for me, I collect Kobe, and the cards kind of make me collect the sets, right? I think that the most important sets I'm focusing on is the essential credential, and that was because of the essential credential now I picked up early on. I think that was one of the cards, like 2 out of 8. Yeah. And also that is definitely one of the cards because that kind of make me who I am, and keeps keep searching eBay to chase the set. So I'm kind of active until today. Otherwise, I might be like satisfied with the Kobe and retired a long time ago. So that's one of the card. Another one is actually the first year Exquisite, the base parallel auto patch 1 of 1. Right. That's a card which is kind of top of my list when I entered the hobby 2009. And I was told that this collector, Jim Tommenfeld, Exquisite 613, he owns it, and my only chance is just to outlast him, basically. So I have to stay healthy and positive mind. But just during the COVID times, he somehow kind of unloaded all his Exquisite stash, so I was able to land that card. Yeah, so that's another one. The third one can be tricky. Maybe I don't know. Let me think.
Just to be clear, Dennis, just to be clear, he has the most expensive Kobe card in the world, and he hasn't said that one yet. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody realizes what's going on here right now. So is he going to say it? Or I know there's a couple other ones that are out there. So what's he going to say?
I mean, for me, let me think real quick which one. I think one of the most proud moment is for me to be able to complete the very last pack issued auto patch card of Kobe. I think it's in Exquisite, in Immaculate, right? 2007, 2008, 2017, 2018, and it's Immaculate numbers out of 8, because it's it's kind of an immaculate version of number pieces. And Kobe was featured wearing 8 in the game when he scored 81 points, basically. And I was able to get all 8, right? I think that journey is also very special. I think I like the 8 out of 8 of that card. Yeah, so those 3.
Wow.
Also representing 3 different eras, so it's kind of also very representative, very unbiased. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Isn't that awesome? That's special. I mean, we know what one you're taking, buddy. Adam's he's gonna grab that logo. I think what's really fun about these discussions is that we learn that it's not just about what everybody thinks is the greatest. It's about what you as a collector think is the greatest in your collection, in your opinion. And I think, there's obviously the popular, unequivocal, the PMG green or But then you also have some of these cards that are just amazing, that are very important to the collector in that particular frame of the career that they're collecting Kobe in, or any player. You know, it's interesting listening to this discussion after listening to the discussion or having the discussion with Josh about LeBron. It was just, here's the very best card. And it started from like, these are the cards that are the most important, but here's the this is the most important card. And it ended with, I just pretty much sell and trade everything I have just to get that one card, and I'd be happy just having that one card. It was a very interesting discussion on how it went there, because everybody does it differently, right? And they like, we collect and view all this differently. So this is a great discussion, gentlemen. Any other cards that we need to talk about, or anything else you guys want to add?
Well, I want to point out real quick, the conversation with Josh that I haven't heard yet is interesting, because I think LeBron has a clear-cut number one card. And I said that Kobe's is the green, but here Spino just chose 3 cards of his ahead of the green.
Right.
And I think that makes sense. The LeBron, I haven't heard it, but I'm guessing that he was referring to the Ultimate Collection Logo Man Auto from 2003. That's the best LeBron card. Is that right, Dennis? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
That hasn't ever been seen, or at least we don't know publicly.
He knows. I think he knows who has it. If I'm remembering correctly.
I don't think so.
No.
It doesn't exist publicly in a way. If somebody knew, there's another one. There's like sort of a secondary Logo Man Auto from Ultimate Collection of LeBron, but that's not the RPA. That's from like a different set, and it's an incredible card and multi-million-dollar card. But the best LeBron card, nobody knows where that is. It's, in fact, I've said that the Steph Superfractor is the most valuable card that people don't know where it is. That's not true. It's the LeBron. The LeBron Ultimate Logo Man is the most valuable card that I think nobody knows where it exists. But with Kobe, like, I own his first Logo Man Auto. It's not his keyest card. We know it's not. It's not, the green would outsell it by 10x. It's a different world for Kobe Bryant. And that's what I love about collecting, is that these players have very different elements to them based on when they came into the league and how the hobby sort of changed that time. Kobe's second best card, as far as value goes, was the Black Label Chrome Refractor. And neither Spino or I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think he, and I know I wouldn't put it near the top of the list for me.
Do you think that's more of a reaction to the boom in the hobby, where folks were coming in and learning about what Black Label meant? And I kind of feel like there was a moment in time where that card was the card, and novices would go, okay, yeah, that's the card, but nobody, Raise the Roof. I just learned about that card today, folks, and I love Kobe, and I've talked to Spino and Adam in Anesium about Kobe and the cards, and I don't know how many times we've been sitting there wearing out our phones talking to each other about, and I didn't even know about that card. There's so many wonderful cards, but at that time, that's what everybody kind of knew it existed, or the PMG red or green. Do you think it's is it because of that?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think the investor or the people who has a different perspective to the hobby, right? Mm-hmm. They might, for example, people from vintage era, people from ultra modern, when they enter the space, the first thing they look at is the rookie card, right? And then I think the most iconic Kobe rookie card will be this Topps Chrome Refractor, right? Which is unnumbered. So there's going to be around, I think it's probably around 500 copies or 1,000 copies. And for unnumbered cards to differentiate, there's this condition, right, assigned by well-established grading companies. Mm-hmm. And to further differentiate, like this Black Label basically is perfectly, every aspect is perfect, like 10 in each of the assignments. So, and also I think that one sold very high is also the card that is not grained too much, right? There are 2 copies of a Black Label, one is a little bit greener. And this card has some weird thing going on. If you preserve it very well in the bank, in the temperature and humidity controlled situation, it still will become green somehow. And so that card is perfect in a possible way. So it's very attractive to the investors. Mm-hmm. And people like shining cards. So it's kind of understandable. Yeah.
So real quick on this thought, Spino earlier, remember Dennis, when he was talking about how you can have like a lower level of a card, and he was talking about the PMGs, and then he was talking about the credentials, and credentials has the now that's to 8, right? And then the future that's to 63. Is that right?
Yeah.
73. 73, my bad. And then you've got the base. Whereas, and then the Metal Universe, you have the base, you have the red to 90 and the green to 10. And then you have various conditions across all three of them. That's a way that you can sort of differentiate between something that's important. So if the green was to go up for sale today and it did some huge number, you can bet, for right or for wrong, that the next red would benefit from it, and the next PSA 10 base would benefit from it. And it's the same thing with this Kobe refractor we just talked about. We didn't talk about the Panini era at all, which is funny. That's the era that I have like the best Kobe cards from, I think. The same thing happens in the Panini era, except for what they did that was just so brilliant, right? You look at that first Chrome set, you've got the base and you've got the refractor, and then you differentiate across condition. The first Prism set, you have the base, you have the silver, which is just like the refractor, and then you have the gold that's out of 10. And that was so popular that they then did it every year since then. And then they added a million parallels. You can say what you want to about those different parallels, but people love when you can differentiate not only on condition, but on cards too, which leaves this question, Dennis. It's a really interesting question. Spino, what if Topps Chrome had that foresight? You know where I'm going with this. Back in 96, and they had a gold refractor numbered out of 10 or numbered out of 50. Can you imagine what that? Can you imagine what that would do in this market? Like,
yeah,
it's mind blowing, and that's why people go after this really rare stuff, because they think, what if this had existed back then? What if Michael Jordan had a rookie numbered to 10? Could have been one of the coolest things ever.
Right. Yeah, I think the Prism really is kind of the Panini's synonymous kind of product, right? The market cap probably the largest in the brand by far. Because of the lots of rookie Black Finite just simply sells millions, and also lots of Prism Gold are not far behind. Yeah, I agree. I think if you look at the cards by 10 out of 10 and out of 50 and out of 100 or unnumbered but a high grade, the behavior are completely different, right? Out of 10, you basically see once every 5 to 10 years. Out of 50 is like once or twice a year, and out of 100 is can be anytime. So that's why I think the larger the print run, you have the co-owner risk, basically. Yep. People who cannot hold it very steady when the price goes up or down, they always sell somehow. You want to take this thing, but for the lower rare version, I think once they sell high, people feel more attached to it, right? They think more like highly of them, so they tend to hold on to them longer. So not only they are intrinsically rarer, but also the co-owners also find them more like sentimentally attached to it. So for example, out of 10, there are probably only 3 copies that are really circulating, but out of 99, there might be like 80 copies.
Seriously.
Yeah, so that's completely different dynamic. Yeah.
It's what we've seen with Brady, right? Brady's rookie. Yeah. You know, everybody loves Tom Brady. His best rookie card, everybody loves it. There's 100 of them, and we've seen it move like 70 times in the last 3 years. Some crazy number. Whereas,
I think the organic growth is important. If the card goes from because this Brady card was purchasable around 10K to 20K, right, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and suddenly it becomes $1 million level, so it's life-changing.
Yes,
people just gonna switch that into the life-changing amount, right? And everybody, basically all the Brady collector I know, maybe 20 of them, everybody is selling the card. Some get slotted later and get less. But if it's organically grow, like 20K becomes 100K or 200K, then people will feel more attached to it, right? Because they feel people do not want to sell things which becomes better, appreciate in some way. And then it's not life-changing and you can gradually adapt into it. Maybe that also play a role. I think the pandemic make price jump too high. So many people change their kind of mindset, right? Before we have to go around convincing the owner to sell the cards and find it everywhere on the web. But during the pandemic, in the hobby boom, everyone is selling, so you just sit there and choosing from all the offerings. So it's a completely different dynamic. Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about collecting now, and I think that's what's changed, and I think that's what's great about the hobby. What I've learned is that the cards I want now, I have to try to convince the person to sell it. The Griffies that I want now, I have to convince them to sell it. Or you sell it, and then the next day you instantly regret selling it because you know it's going to be so hard to get it back. Great discussion, gentlemen. I know we're up against it on a time frame standpoint. I want to thank both of you for being a part of this show, this Grail series. What an interesting and fascinating discussion on Kobe Bryant, his best cards, his important cards, the cards that matter to the both of you. I think everybody who listens to this program, and especially those who love Kobe, are going to learn a lot. It's going to be time well spent. I want to thank everybody who jumps on and views this channel or views this show. You can follow Spinotron at Spinotron on Instagram. You got at I am Adam Gray, right? Or the real Adam Gray, right?
The real 27 guy.
The real 27 guy. I'm sorry, the real 27 guy. Go ahead and follow him there. You can find me on my own podcast now. Other than this weekly show I do here with the Sports Card Dad, it is at Melted Wax Podcast. Go give me a follow. I'm on Spotify as well. Thank everybody. Thank you, everyone. Go comment below. Ask questions. These guys will probably come back and take a look, and hopefully we'll answer some of those questions for you. Appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day, both of you, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.